So if you don't have a culture of really putting the customer first and building everything around it, it's very easy to go back to old habits. So to be truly customer first, you have to let the customer drive those stories.
Don't conduct your analysis in isolation because data is so incredibly powerful.
Not defending just the tribe, but defending the organization.
Those creative people that you really want to keep empowered, keep excited, keep motivated, keep thinking.
A good experience pays dividends down the line.
Stereotypes tend to break down in proximity.
Welcome to We're Only Human, a podcast about human resources, business, technology, and the workplace. My name is Ben Eubanks, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. Hey everyone, it's Ben Eubanks, host of We're Only Human. Glad you're here with us today. And listen up, if you are an HR technology or service provider, today's episode is going to give you some real and tangible value. You're going to enjoy hearing more about how to unlock the stories of your clients and customers and bring value out of them. Now, if you're an HR leader, don't turn away. Listen up. I want you to listen into how Patrika in the conversation today talks about how getting people on board with their telling their stories creates some opportunities for you as well. You can use this principle when you're trying to understand someone's motivations as a candidate, or maybe you're trying to use to understand someone's motivations for retention purposes. You can use these kinds of stories that she talks about unlocking for your employee referrals, for employer branding campaigns, for ways to tell the story about your company without you having to tell the story yourself. See, the research shows that when candidates are asked what kind of video and content they want to see during the hiring process, the dead last thing they want to see is a message from HR or recruiters. They most want to see something from a person like them at the company that's authentic and real. Even if it's not polished and pretty, it feels more real and helpful to them. So telling these stories, drawing these stories out is really what today's conversation with Patrika is about. She's a master at it, and she'll hint at some of the ways she does that. And I think it helps us to realize this vision and this important message that your people are more than their job titles. And in this conversation, you'll hear how she helps to unlock what those other deeper things are that make each individual special, unique, and valuable. And now, on with the show. Today, I have a fun and unique sort of episode for you. I have a good friend here with me, and we're going to talk about things like how organizations can use this concept of eminence to stand out, to create deeper connections, to really enable and facilitate relationships in a powerful sort of way. And I'm so excited to have my good friend Patrika here with me to talk about that. So welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hey, you are, if I had to think about anybody that I knew that's an expert on this topic, you're first and foremost, and the second person is like down the list. So I'm so glad that you have some time to spend with us today and really connect with us on this topic and help us understand more about it and how it works. So before we get to that good stuff, would you take a minute and tell the audience more about who you are and what you do, please?
Sure. So I'm the Customer Eminence Leader at Kyndryl, and I have a really unique job. I got to go create a program that really celebrates the customer voice. So we really partner with customers, and it's a different way of looking at the traditional way of doing references, but it's really appreciating everything that our customers bring to the table.
Excellent. I'm excited for you to get into some of those differences in a little bit, because I think that like I said, I've watched some of the work that you've done. I've actually been a part of some of the work that you've done, and it's been incredible to see how that is a different experience than just tapping someone on the shoulder and saying, hey, would you come back and tell everybody we're great again? This is a different conversation. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're really making these customers the hero. Is that fair to say?
That is exactly what I try to do.
Okay. All right. So I'm giving too much away here. You tell us a story. What is this idea of eminence? This is what you do day to day. You've done it for a long time and you're really good at it. How is this different from those other ways that companies use to connect with the market?
If you think about the traditional way we do references, you have to throw all of that out the window. It's really about thinking about everything that customer brings to the table. Typically, the executives I work with, they're high level, C-level, VP level. They bring years of experience to the table. And if you just talk to them about a project and you're waiting to the end and you're talking about the great outcomes, you miss the whole journey and you miss all their years of experience that they could knowledge share and they could give best practices. Again, you miss the why. Why did they go on this journey, this relationship with your company? You have to start at the why and go on a journey with them. And that way they get to really be the hero of this story. They get to be a change maker. And so many executives, so many people, they're trying to create change. So with this program, we give them the platform to tell that story and to show how they're creating change.
So why do you think it is that it's so common that someone doing a role similar to yours, but on the reference side, why do they focus only on that end? Hey, would you recommend us? Or they focus on that piece of it instead of thinking about the journey? Is it because it's harder to do that, because it takes more time and effort to do that, or they just haven't stopped to think about it?
I think it's a combination of both. So maybe they haven't stopped to think about it, or you're very outcome focused. Most organizations are outcome focused. What's the outcome? Let me tell the great story of the work that we did. It was amazing. This is the outcome. But when you think about having peer-to-peer conversations is so important for executives, for people in general. If you think about you want to learn something, you're going to go find a person who did it and you're going to talk to that person. We miss out on that peer-to-peer conversation, which is so needed. So I think by focusing just on the end of the journey, the end of the race, I should say, instead of the journey, you miss so much information that's valuable. So I think you just tunnel visioned a lot and we just thinking about one piece of it. And what happens is when we say, I need a reference or I need someone to speak about this great offering that we have, you're building a little box for a customer to fit in. But when you think about Eminence, you're outside the box because you're thinking about everything and you're doing it on their own terms. When you get a customer talking about it from their lens and their point of view, when they're comfortable to do it, so it's on their timing, it's what they want to say, the story is so much richer. You get so much more color to that story. And if I can give you an example, I'll give you an example.
Absolutely. Go for it.
I remember speaking to this guy and he loved the company we were working for, the project. But when we really said, tell me about your role, what are you doing? How are you trying to create change? He gave us these amazing nuggets. I remember he was talking about relentless perfection and how they created this value through excellence. The account team, I remember, was like, wow, that's amazing. They had never heard him articulate it like that. But it's because we took a pause and say, tell it to me from your point of view, not give me the end result of the work we did together, but tell me at the core of who you are, how are you mixing who you are with business? So we get these little nuggets of information that if we went the traditional route, we wouldn't have gotten that story.
What's interesting is you don't hear in that question anything about the outcome, right? That's not, we'll get there eventually, right? That matters, but you're asking different questions. You're asking about the personal side of that. And that blend of things leads them to answer in a way that is honestly probably a little different. I'm thinking about the times that I've been interviewed on a podcast before and someone asked a question I didn't expect. And my heart like jumps a little bit in a good way because I'm like, I've never been asked that before. And I love breaking some new ground. I want to answer this. I can't wait to answer this versus tell me about your book. Tell me about the 3 things they're going to get from it as a reader. Like, I've heard all those questions. Let's get to the things I've never been asked. And that's really interesting. So I wanted to go back and touch on something. So we've been talking about this concept of eminence. And really quickly, while you were talking there, I had the thought, I'm going to grab the definition of it. So for anyone listening in, the definition of eminence is fame or recognized superiority, especially within a particular sphere or profession. And so in this case, you're talking about, okay, I'm going to talk to a leader in technology and help make them highlight their ability, their knowledge, their expertise, as you're saying, their story, and make that stand out. Or someone who is on the talent side, like many of the people in our audience, take that person, tell their story, make them stand out for that reason. So I wanted to emphasize that a little bit because that's what we're talking about, helping to tap into, as you said, their personal side, their story, the different kind of questions you can ask to really get at those things. With that said, again, you and I have seen lots of companies trying to tackle this. What is the biggest thing that companies miss when they're trying to do this sort of thing with their own customers?
So I think they don't appreciate the true voice of the customer. So the voice of the customer is multifaceted. It's so many layers to it. And one of the things while you were talking about your definition of eminence, one word that was missing is passion. We tap into their passions. And sometimes those passions are even outside of the scope of their day-to-day job. And that's how we build relationships. So Eminence is all about giving them a platform to share their passions, but it's also around building relationships with their customers. So if anyone knows me, if someone really gets to know me, they know I have two super busy kids. I'm a dance mom, cheer mom. I've been a band mom, swim mom, everything. So you get me talking about that, and I'm going to start talking. It's going to break the walls down. So we have to do that with our customers. We have to find what they're passionate about because that's how you build relationships. And when you build those relationships, they trust you more. They want to share more and they'll talk more. So it's all about really getting to the sense of who they are as a customer and designing a whole program around that.
I'm glad you pulled the passion piece of that out of it because you could be good at something and not want to talk about it. You could be a high performer in an area, but if it's draining you, so you don't want to spend any extra time building up a perception of expertise in that area because it just means you're going to be asked to do more of it and you're already overflowing with it. You don't want any more. So I'm glad you touched on the passion piece because that really unlocks some of those stories. As you said, think of any mom or dad who's got a kid and a sport, they can't wait to tell you about that thing.
Exactly.
I think that's a good example of that because we all have something in our life. If someone just asked me the question, please just ask me the question. I can't wait until that door's open so I can jump in and start talking about this thing I'm excited about. And your job is to identify and help companies identify what those things look like within their customer base. What are those stories? What are those areas where they're passionate? And you've done, again, you have a framework for this that leads you down that path to getting those stories, drawing them out, and helping them use those to connect with other clients, to build that relationship more deeply for a long-term success, all those sorts of things. So I love that it's multifaceted here too. You talked about the different pieces of it, but it's also the benefits and value. It's not just like they'll stick around. Yes, but there's other things beyond that that are great additional positive outcomes that are possible here.
Exactly.
So I've got to ask you, I asked you about a mistake or a miss companies have, and I'm going to come back and push on you a little bit because you said they don't always appreciate the voice of the customer. And I've talked to lots of companies that they'll do an advisory board or they have some customer success or something like that. They have different mechanisms for hearing the voice of the customer. And yet I feel like they are missing some of those other things you're talking about here, like the personal side, things like that. What is one piece of advice that you'd give them to help them think about that differently or to unlock some of those stories that might be there? I know you're going to talk in a minute about how they can connect with you, all those good things, but anything you'd share here on like, hey, here's one piece or one tip that might help you to start getting at some of those stories. What do you think?
You have to build this as part of your culture. So if you don't have a culture of really putting the customer first and building everything around it, it's very easy to go back to old habits. So to be truly customer first, you have to let the customer drive those stories. As I mentioned before, we have a need and we need a customer to fill that need. But to really make Eminence work, you have to flip it and you have to say, here's a customer. This is who they are as a person, really getting a sense of who they are in all fronts and saying, help me elevate their story. Then, for instance, I work with our comms team, our content team, the events team. We work with all those teams to then find the right avenues for them to tell their story. So it has to be a collective effort in an organization. It has to be where the customer is truly the center of everything. And you're just looking at different groups in that organization to help you tell the story. So my advice is always keep the customer's story present and first and their needs first, because we miss a lot of things, even because of timing. We may have a deadline that we're trying to meet. We need to get a customer story out by this time. We have to have a customer for this, but we may have missed an amazing story because the timing was wrong. When I do Eminence journeys for our customers, I let them say, tell me when you're going to be available to do this. When does it fit into your schedule? So everything that I do is customer driven. So I think that's my point of view. My best piece of advice is to keep customers first in everything you do and make sure they are driving everything you do.
Excellent. Excellent. Wonderful. Okay, so I've hinted at it once or twice now, but you have been doing this for a long time, and you're starting to do some of this for organizations that are looking for support building their own programs. So what is the best way for someone to connect with you or to learn more about how you're doing that?
Of course, always reach out to me on LinkedIn. I believe LinkedIn is such a powerful platform. You get to see people and what they're interested in. So always reach out to me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect. Everyone tells me, just let Patrika talk about it, because I'm so passionate about this, because I've seen the results. So I've seen how it works. And a unique piece about me is I've probably been through every piece of the customer life cycle. I've been in inside sales, business development, now customer success. So I've seen that customer journey and I've walked that walk. So I have a good, unique understanding of what it takes to really understand a customer and really bring out their true value. And again, like you said in the beginning, to make them the hero of their story.
Tremendous. Okay. So we'll make sure and get your LinkedIn into the show notes so someone can click over and connect with you, learn more. Now I've got a really hard question for you. You may not be able to answer it, honestly, after all this other stuff. This is going to be the hard one. Band or dance? Which one do you like better?
Oh, that's really hard. I will say my son might get a little upset, but dance is amazing. Just I love watching my daughter dance. So I can pick her out. She has a unique style. I will say dance. But for my son, I have to plug that I love watching swim. He's a swimmer. And so I think dance and swim, those are my favorites.
Okay. All right. I grabbed two random ones out of the grab bag there you gave me earlier. I was trying to figure that one out. I told someone the other day I've become a accidental coach of basketball. Basketball is not my sport, but my son wanted to try it out. And I said I'd help a team. And they said, we don't have any other coaches or enough coaches, so you get promoted to be a coach. I'm like, that feels like a demotion to me. So I coach in basketball, but I prefer soccer. I prefer wrestling, one of the other sports I know more about. So this is an interesting season for me too. Okay, cool. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for spending some time with us, for sharing your expertise. And anyone listening can tell you're tapping into that passion you have on this front to help people tell stories, to help get those stories out of and unlock the value that those create. So thank you so much for joining me, Patrika. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Absolutely. To everybody else out there, think about the stories your own customers have out there and how you can unlock those. And again, you want to know more about how Patrika's doing that and helping companies do it, make sure and check out the show notes. You can click over and connect with her on LinkedIn and learn more. Thank you so much. We'll catch you again next time on We're Only Human. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I'm honored to have you as a listener. If you enjoyed this episode, please take 10 seconds to rate it at iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, if you know a friend that could benefit from today's conversation, please pass it their way. After all, a rising tide lifts all ships. To see show notes, sponsor information, and our full show archives, visit onlyhumanshow.com.